and thanks for having me tonight. If you do hear any loud screams, it's because my pigs are in the College World Series right now. We're battling it out with LSU, and that's why I had to rep my town and rep my team. So if we've got any other college sports fans here, I did graduate from two SEC schools, so I tell my husband it just means more and more and it's more and more debt actually. But anyway, that's what's going on with us, and I'm glad to take time away from the College World Series to spend some time with y'all. So I have a presentation here. We're going to go through the different aspects of the CV, and then feel free to interrupt me, ask questions. It's not going to throw me off. You can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand, whatever you want to do. But I call this the anatomy of the CV because y'all are future physicians, and it really is we can look at it in the same way. We're breaking down different elements, and I'll walk you through each one of those. So the goals and learning objectives, my goals for you after this presentation is that you'll be able to understand the use and importance of a CV in the medical profession, identify essential elements of a successfully constructed CV, to write meaningful CV content, and avoid the common pitfalls, and distinguish between content in a CV and your ARIS application because they're actually quite different. Some ways the same, some ways different. So the purpose of your CV is a couple different things. One, it's to share a short explanation of your professional experiences. It's also can be used to inform a letter of recommendation writer so that they can write a more meaningful, thoughtful letter about you and the specific things that you've done based on your professional experiences. And ideally, if done well, it should impress someone because often it's your first impression, whether you're applying for a position, if you've taken the content and put it on ARIS, if you're applying for an internship, what have you. So it is important that this document fit. It can be creative, but fit a nice aesthetic, not have a lot of errors in it. And that's what we're going to go over tonight. So what is the anatomy of a CV? So here are some sections that you'll likely have on your CV. The non-negotiables are your education, your sometimes honorary and professional, but definitely your education, skills and certifications, and then the rest can really vary. Maybe you don't have a ton of research experience. Maybe you've never had teaching and tutoring. Maybe you haven't had any honors and awards. That's okay. I didn't really have any until graduate school or PhD school. That's all okay. But there are certain things that will always be there. And then there's certain things that you can set a goal for yourself to say, hey, I want more of this. For me professionally, being in a PhD program, my goal was research, to start doing more publications, to start working on presentations. That's how it would help get the job I have now. That's what helped me with these grants. And ultimately, I'd like to teach. And so I know now I need to start building up teaching and tutoring. So I don't want you to look at sections of your CV as like what you're lacking, but more of a goal of like, okay, well, I know for my career trajectory, I want to add this in. And so I'm going to look for opportunities to fill these in. I have an asterisk here for clinical experiences. So when I say clinical experiences, I don't mean the clerkships you've done in medical school. Those should not be there. That's part of an academic program and that should not be there. This is like scribing, being an EMT, previously being a nurse, things like that. And listing those as clinical experience or hands-on clinical experience. You will not ever put your coursework on there because that's what your transcript is for. So these are some of the headings that we're going to go over and talk about. Okay, so section best practices. So these are things you want to do as you're starting to write your CV. And I do have a template I can share with y'all so you can use it and use these sections. So you want to be in reverse chronological order. So your newest things go first. So when you do your education, medical school will go first. And then if you have a master's or undergraduate or anything like that goes under. When you go to residency will then go ahead of medical school with your intern year and then whatever you do for residency. Same thing goes for any of your experiences. And people will say, well, I've done this one to present. Well, it's when it started. It's when it started, then to present. Anything that's to present goes first, and then you do them in reverse chronological order after that. And I'll show you some examples. You want to have consistent formatting. So that includes your fonts, bolding, italic, spacing, capitalization. People go crazy in a CV aesthetically. There's no need for that. You could y'all, I am in Times New Roman. Please do not use a template, and please do not use tables and all that kind of stuff. It's so difficult to edit. You can use just plain old font, text, underlining, whatever, but it needs to be consistent throughout. It needs to be thoughtful and detailed writing. So I'll get into this, but we want to use action words with specific details that bring context to your content. So Davis and I were talking because he lives in Minnesota. I have a familiarity with Minnesota because I work for the University of Minnesota, but normally if we were having a conversation, I wouldn't. Whereas y'all might not have any context of what it's like in Arkansas. And so you want to give that specific context so people they will not give you the benefit of the doubt on how great you are. So that content needs to be meaningful and give context to the volume of patients you were seeing, the type of environment you were in, the research you were doing, and what all you did, because what you write is what they get. And so if you're selling yourself short, no one's going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So that's being thoughtful is really important there. And we'll get more into that later. You want to delete sections you're not using. Like I said, that's not a bad thing. It's just a goal. Keep the template and have that be a goal that for my next, in the next 3 years, I'm going to get a publication. I'm going to work my butt off to do that. Or I'm going to get some more teaching experience and I'm going to put myself out there. So it's okay to delete sections. Totally okay. And then you want to edit carefully. So you want to avoid errors and read overall content really carefully. I do remember I do have an error in this PowerPoint somewhere, and I can't remember what it is, but it'll be glaring when I see it. And that is super embarrassing because I'm presenting to y'all and I should not have that. But that is the point, that we should have other people look at our stuff and make sure that we're looking at it carefully, because having errors, we just hired for a position. It makes you look lazy when you're not. It makes you look careless when you're not. It's just that you didn't make enough attention to detail. So you want to edit carefully. I blame my 4 children. I was pregnant when I did this presentation the last time, or maybe I was newly not pregnant. I blame lack of sleep and baby brain, but still, you shouldn't do it. Okay, so here's a section overview. So education, like I said, you want your most recent education first, but what's more important is you want the dates that you completed rather than the dates that you attended, unless you didn't graduate. Honestly, it just looks kind of messy, and it's hard to do the math of like, when did you actually get the degree? I put an asterisk here typically, and I'm a little bit older now, so it doesn't matter. But when I was a young pup like y'all, I felt like I was discriminated against sometimes because of my age, that I was too young. Like I didn't have enough professional experience, I didn't have this or that. So for a long time, I didn't put my graduation dates on my CV because I didn't want to. Like I didn't want people to be like, oh, she's only been out of college 4 years. Like there's no way she can handle this job. And that works in the reverse if you're older. Some people may say, oh, you're in your 40s and you're just starting. Like it doesn't matter. It's against the law to discriminate against you for age. But if you want to safeguard that, you don't have to put your completion dates on there. It's totally fine if you don't. But you don't want to put like August 2005 to May 2009. Now you'll know how old I am. That's when I went to college. So you can just put when you finished. Honors and awards, what's important about these is that they should be merit-based awards only. So at NYIT-COM, we had a Delta Leader Scholarship that everybody got. It wasn't a merit-based award. Merit-based means that you earned it. And not that they didn't earn that, but like they didn't do anything competitively to get that scholarship. It was just something we did to make the tuition more affordable. So like you want to make sure that you're not putting something that everybody gets. You also can include honors and high passing clerkships. So that is considered an honor that you can put on there. So if you say, high pass OBGYN clerkship, but you want to say what it's for. Like I said, high pass OBGYN clerkship, spring 25, what have you. Honoring professional organizations, this is probably one of the places I see the most that there are errors. These are national organizations only, not local designations. So what's important about this is if you put SOMA, it should just be Student Osteopathic Medical Association, not Student Osteopathic Medical Association, Liberty University. We don't care that it's at Liberty. We care that that's just SOMA in general, because it's the honorary professional, not the local. And then we also want to spell out abbreviations, because if I say AOA, what do you hear? Like put in the chat or whatever. When I say AOA, what comes to your mind? Sorry, my Labrador is barking like crazy and it's making me nuts. I wish my husband would let him in. Anybody on AOA?
American Osteopathic Association.
Thank you. Perfect. What else? Okay, I got to chat. Let's see. Alpha Omega Alpha. Yes, you're exactly right. That's the MD Honor Society. American Orthopedic Association, right? We just did 3 right there. So you cannot assume that people understand what AOA is. ADA. When I say ADA, it could be American Dental Association or it could be American Disabilities Act. Okay, those are two vastly different things. So you do not want to abbreviate any of your organizations because, again, people won't know what it is. The one exception to this is when you're doing ARIS. There you can only have so many characters for honorary and professional organizations. So sometimes I will let people abbreviate if it's like AAFP, which everyone knows, the American Academy of Family Physicians, because there's not anything else. But typically on a CV, you will not abbreviate. Or if you do, then you need to spell it out beforehand and then abbreviate. Okay, so like PM&R specific things, yes. Most of the time, people would know what AOCPMR is, but you'll have to remember, like osteopathic medicine is becoming bigger, but for a long time, people in the allopathic world did not know what osteopathic things are. So that's kind of a 50-50 on that one. I think people have a better understanding now, but if you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of DOs, you may consider being a little bit more specific with your abbreviations. Thing with abbreviations is if you spell it out and then put it in parentheses once, you don't ever have to spell it out again. So that's totally okay. If you have it spelled out in the lower part or the upper part of your CV, you don't have to spell it out in the lower. And that's just what we do in academic writing and things like that too. So that's just a little trick you can use there. Okay, so some other sections you may or may not have are research. So this is actually my what I did my dissertation on. I use it as an example. So you want the department and the location of where you did it. So I did mine at the University of Mississippi, specifically in the Department of Higher Education, and you need the location of where you did it. So this was Oxford, Mississippi. I worked on this project from January 2019 to August 2020 when I graduated. My title was research assistant. My mentor was my faculty member. Okay, this is my pet peeve, y'all. And I know you're all going to get really cute Patagonias and stuff like that when you graduate. I am not Dr. Holly Proffitt, PhD. I am Holly Proffitt, PhD, or I am Dr. Holly Proffitt. Do not double doctor yourself. So in this is my advisor. She's Amy Wells Dolan, PhD, or she's Dr. Amy Wells Dolan. But I prefer in a CV that you use the suffix so people know what kind of physician they are. So you can, or physician or PhD or what have you, because in our fields that matters to people. So then you have the project title, and you can see my consistency in my formatting, right? I've got the title bolded, and then I've got the title of my project, and that's all that's bolded. It's all the same. And this was just tabbing and space. There's nothing crazy about this formatting. So then I talked about what I did. So I conducted survey research. I talked about the type of research I did. I talked about the type of correlations to analyze correlations between different aspects. And then if I was going to go further, I would say, MANOVA results indicated higher self-awareness for women in medical school. I would go further into the actual results that we found. Just putting that it was research doesn't really help people to understand the context of what you're doing. So my rule of thumb is like 3 to 5 bullets of really good specific content. So if I said and used various various analyses, that doesn't tell you anything about what I know how to do. You want to be specific in your language to make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance for people to know how smart you are. Y'all are gonna be stinking physicians. You're so smart. Give yourself that credit. Don't downplay it here. So important things to put here are the mentor and the project title. So that's why I have that down here, and you can see mentor and project title right there. So you'll see consistencies between what we do in each section. Okay, teaching and tutoring. This is another one of my real jobs. University of Arkansas, Department of Journalism, Fayetteville, Arkansas. These were the dates I did it. I was a graduate assistant. Again, bullets here that are specific. I assisted 3 professors, not just assisted professors, not just 1 professor, 3 professors with grading and course administration duties. If I wanted to get real crazy, I would say for over 1,200 undergraduate students, right? So I'm being like, when you hear University of Arkansas, you don't know how big the Lemke College of Journalism is. You don't know how many students I was doing it for when I said 3 professors. I also proctored exams for students with accommodations and made special exams. That's showing you I know what accommodations are. So in my field, it's important to show people that, like, hey, I understand what the laws are. I understand what students are entitled to, and they trusted me with that as a graduate assistant. And then I talked about what courses I taught if my professors weren't there. So there's a lot that I said in those 3 little sentences, but it was because I was really thoughtful about what am I trying to get people to understand about this job. And that's really what I tell people when they ask me what should be on their CV. I say, well, what are you trying to say? What do you want people to get from this? And that's what you need to think about when you're putting this stuff together. All righty. Oh, we went the wrong way. Leadership and co-curricular co-curricular experiences. So this is stuff that y'all probably have a ton of. So same kind of thing here, where it was, what your role was. And I have this here is that sometimes y'all will have multiple roles within the same organization. So you can have president class of 2027, and then underneath this, if this is your most recent, you can have an older one. Like maybe before that, you were the class representative, but it was all under Student Government Association. You can have multiple things in one section of the same organization. And that helps with your formatting too. So it stays nice and neat and clean. And all you want to do is make sure that your dates, I don't have dates on this one, your dates line up. Like just make sure it's aesthetically pleasing. So again, collaborated with senior leadership, planned and executed 6 events. There's very specific language here that's what we want to move forward. Skills and certifications, y'all, this is a bugaboo for me. When people put hardworking, skills and certifications need to be things you can prove. If I croak right now, could you do BLS to save my life? Or do you have a certificate that says that you can do it? That's what goes there. BLS, ACLS, any languages, HIPAA, OSHA, any of the bloodborne pathogens, all of that crazy stuff that y'all have done that you can prove goes here. Things that are not able to prove do not go here. Those are qualities that you can talk about in an interview, but they do not go on your CV. So these are some other questions that I typically get in this are like, what if I have an expired license? Like, what if I was a nurse? Totally okay. You can put an expired nursing license. You can put an expired EMT license. You can put all of those kind of things. Like if my husband's a coach, he could still put his teaching license there, even if he wasn't teaching anymore, because it shows that you passed a test or something to get that license. So it's totally okay to put those there, even if you're not still practicing, because you actually have the ability that you could get it renewed if you wanted to. So skills and certifications, just think, if someone asked me this, could I prove it? I can prove to you that I can speak basic to intermediate Spanish. That's why I have it there. Alrighty, so what does not go on the CV? Like I said, academic courses, things you can't prove, errors, don't misspell things, don't have weird typos and different things on there. Non-specific language. So you can see I was very thoughtful in being specific about what I had on there. Not various, not many, not different, like you just want things that show exactly what you did. It's not in first person narrative. So Holly worked at whatever. Nope. And then we also don't have narrative paragraphs. You want them to be in bulleted form, very specific in what you're saying, brief and to the point, but descriptive, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but that's why it takes time to like craft these things and put them together. So what are the similarities and differences when it comes to your ARIS application? Because if y'all are 4th years, you know it's open, you're starting to think about it, and this is how you're going to write it. And what are the similarities? Like, can I just copy and paste my CV in there? You really shouldn't. Similarities are it should have specific details. It should have precision, especially because you only get 750 characters, and you should have objective descriptions of what you've done. The differences are that you have additional context. So if you've looked at the ARIS application, it has like, what type of experience was this? And you have a drop down that says like research, volunteer. What qualities did you learn from this? Like, was it that you were, oh, I can't even remember what they are, that you were being altruistic, that you were doing, that it was cultural competency, different things like that. So they're going to ask you questions specifically about that experience. So again, what am I trying to show somebody? You also get a limited number of experiences and characters. You get 10. And you can put them together. So if research, you've had multiple research projects into the same PI, you can put all that together. That's totally okay. But you only get 10 and you only get 750 characters. So you really do have to be thoughtful about what you're putting in there. Your justification of your most meaningful. So of those, you get 3 that are your most meaningful. So why was that your most meaningful? Why was doing research so important to you? Why was this specific volunteer experience so important to you? Why was this medical mission trip so important to you? Those are things you have to think about, and that can be a first person narrative. That's okay, but your descriptions as a whole should not. And then, like I said, the determination between type and qualities. I think what I meant there is additional context, now that I remember and thinking clearly. If I were to talk about, I'm trying to think of something that's local to Fayetteville. If I were to talk about a specific organization here, I would want to give the mission statement or some context of that organization. So, okay, how about this? This is a Minnesota one for Davis. My twins have Down syndrome, and there's an organization they volunteer for called Jack's Basket. It's out of Minnesota. It started at the University of Minnesota. And if I were just to talk about Jack's Basket, you wouldn't know what it was. So I would want to put that Jack's Basket is a 501c corporation, that 501 whatever 3C corporation that delivers baskets to parents that receive a Down syndrome diagnosis, and also provides education to health professionals to eliminate bias in the delivery of a Down syndrome diagnosis. So that's like one sentence that I'm going to give for context of what Jack's Basket is. And then I'm going to talk about how specifically, what do I do for Jack's Basket? So I'm a regional lead parent. So I work with healthcare providers to provide them resources locally, to encourage them to recommend folks for baskets. And I also deliver baskets to parents, and serve as a companion for the first year of life celebrating their baby. So there's a personal aspect of it of what I do. And then there's also like, what does the national organization do? And then if I was going to do the most meaningful for Jack's Basket, I would say, celebrating my twins and perpetuate like celebrating and helping educate providers about the importance of delivering a diagnosis of Down syndrome without bias is really important to me, because I did not have that experience when I received my diagnosis. I also had the honor to speak at the Jack's Basket Gala in 2024, and raise over $300,000 to support the cause at that gala. And this has been super meaningful to me because I'm representing a population that I care deeply about and educating the future generation of physicians. Okay, so that's the difference between most meaningful versus the objective, what we're describing. Any questions about that? Because I know Eris is probably looming around you right now. We call this a pregnant pause. I'll take a nice pregnant pause to let you think.
So I have a question. So I
Yeah,
guess, and I still need to look at the URAS application, but there's not a space where we upload our CV. It's essentially we kind of deconstruct it and put it within their formatting.
yep,
Um, so in that sense, our CV is like extended throughout the application instead of just
correct.
on one nice little piece of paper. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And it actually has a option when you create the CV or create the application to have it uploaded as a CV to look that way. But like as a career advisor, it makes you want to die the way it looks. Like it does not look good. But no, you will not just upload your CV. You have to put in every single description. So that's a really great distinction that you made. All righty. So this is what the application actually looks like. If y'all want to go on the ARIS website, you can look at this and you can see, but now you can see like you type in the organization, you have the drop down for the experience type, the title, if you're currently working on it, and then your context, roles, and responsibility, how often you did it. So one of the questions I had that was pre-submitted was, should we put hours that we did on our CV? No, you should not on your CV, but it will ask here your participation frequency in this setting. So it's not like when you did med school, like, and I was like, oh, I shadowed for 400 hours. They don't care about that. And you will not put that on your CV, but you will put something like that in the ARIS worksheet. All right, let's see. I do have some other questions. When we were talking about research, there was a question about posters and things like that. Another section on your CV is presentations and publications. And so that's where you can put posters. That's where you can put any abstracts or articles that you've had published. One of the questions was, what if I had a poster, but I didn't present it? It doesn't matter as long as your name was on the poster. You don't have to physically be there. So I actually was talking about this today because I'm presenting a poster in September at the AMA conference, and I'm the one going and my colleagues aren't. And we have a medical student intern, and we have got some of our colleagues in our assessment office that are helping us. And I was asking my colleagues, like, who all's name do I need to put on the poster? Even though I'm the only one physically going, they still get recognition for going there. So even if you don't go, but your poster was accepted, you can list it as a presentation. And to be clear, there is a difference between a presentation that you do at your school and a presentation that you do at a national conference. Typically on a CV, they want it to be like a peer reviewed kind of thing, unless it was like a specific scholars program or a competition that you were doing. Like just making a class presentation, not really the same. That's not what they're looking at on your CV. It needs to be something that was like you were selected to do it. It's the same thing with publications. It's peer reviewed. It's not publishing online like in a blog. It's I submitted this and it was chosen because of specific standards to be a publication. So I know that was a question that was pre-submitted, so I wanted to touch on that. What's the structural framework? We talked about that. The framework is flexible within constraints. Okay. Like I'm like a progressive, creative, not super creative, but creative person. And I hate that I sound like this, but like a CV has to be traditional. And I hate that, but there's still a bunch of crotchety old people out there that are like, color shouldn't go on CVs. And whether or not that's true is not really up to us. It's up to this is the first impression that you're having with someone, and things will turn people off. And if you have too much color, or if you have a photo, like photos are typically not the standard for people that are in our profession. But if you watch Below Deck, like I do, they always have their photo on their CV because it matters to them. So it's kind of industry specific. If you were applying for a job in graphic design, you go with as beautiful color and design, like a creative things. For us, y'all, we're stuffy. We like it plain and on white paper with plain font. Like there is some flexibility, but not a lot in where we are. And maybe 20 years from now, it won't matter. But there is like a general format that we need to follow so it doesn't turn people off. Volunteering, we touched about that. Research, poster, professional orgs. You do not have to include all organizations. Just like in your CV, you don't have to include every single thing you've ever done, but you want to be able to justify any gaps that you've had. So like if you if you had a career before medical school, you want to have that career there to show what you were doing from the time you were 22 years old until the time you went to med school at 30, because people need to follow a path. So you don't want big gaps in your CV because then people are like, what are you doing? What are you trying to hide? Like you're just hanging out? Like it looks kind of sketchy. So you don't have to put everything, but you do want to make sure that you are putting things for people to connect the dots of like, oh, she graduated from college and then she did this. And then she worked while she was in graduate school and then she did this. And some folks, I have worked after every child I've had, but some folks, moms and dads, decide not to work for a little while after they have kids, and that's okay. But you need to be able to talk about why there was that gap on your CV. You don't have to put like stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, but you need to be able to justify anything that people will notice. Along those same lines, if you don't want to talk about it, don't put it on there. If someone's like, oh, you play pickleball, and you're like, yeah, I mean, like, but I kind of hate it. Like, don't put anything on there that is not going to be something that's like fun for you to talk about and talks well about you. Um, anything that's on your CV or your ARIS application is fair game. I have literally heard of people saying that they've read certain books, and then people are like, well, what do you think about this book? They're like, oh, I didn't actually read it. Or they put that they spoke a certain language and then someone tried to speak to them in that language and they couldn't understand it. Don't lie. Please, please, please don't lie. Trying to be impressive. It will bart you in the butt every single time. Do not lie. Make sure everything is factual and something you're willing to discuss because that's super important. We talked about colored backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. I hate that we have to be so boring. And we talked about mistakes. So I've done my pre-submitted questions. What else can I answer for y'all? And while I'm doing that, let me get you a template.
One question that I have is, so for like a research experience versus, I guess, so you put the research experience and then say a publication came from it or a poster, would that citation then be under that same experience, or do you have like a separate section where it's like published research and it's only the citations? Yeah, if you could touch on that a little bit.
For sure. It's the latter. So not every research experience turns into a presentation or publication. So you have the research there as this is something that I did. And then if it turns into a presentation or publication, you have your own section for presentations and publications. And here comes my oldest. So let me find my academic CV and I can show y'all. No, not right now. Go. Oh God, now they all coming in. You're gonna see the whole family. No, get. Okay, let me find my CB real fast for y'all. Oh, I sent it to Davis. Let's see if I can. Oh, bless. Things are going well over here, guys. Hope the Hogs are winning at least. Anybody got the score?
They're up 1-0. They hit a home run
Thank
in the
you.
last inning.
Thank you. That's what I needed to hear. I'm glad someone else is doing that in the background. Okay. Well, my little twin is in here, so it's fine. Okay. So here, oh, and he just fell. Hopefully he doesn't cry. Yep. Uh-oh. Okay. So here's my CV so y'all can see it. This is my old address, so I don't really care in Jonesboro. So try to go find me there. I'm not there anymore. So here's my education. You can see my oldest to newest, honorary professional, honors and awards. So I have higher education experience here first because I actually had jobs before I went into higher ed. But I put that first because it's the most important. And you can tell this is obviously really old because I've been at the University of Minnesota for 3 years. But research, so I've got scholarly activity here and I've got presentations. And this is one thing that is really important is to look at the appropriate format that you put your presentations in. And so for my profession, it's APA. For y'all, you can do the American Bibliographical or Medical Bibliographical, but APA is super easy and I would just use APA. You can see here that I underlined my name. So this was one of my former students when he was a resident. We did some research together. And so I underlined my name. And then if it's just me, then you don't have to. Publications, you can see that here is a publication on its own. And then other research I have here is it's an unpublished manuscript. That was my master's thesis. Institutional service, you may or may not have this, but when you guys get into hospitals and stuff like that, you might sit on different committees. Or if you sit on a committee now at your medical school, you can put that there. That's an important thing for academic folks. We just think it's funny or think it's a good thing to have. Volunteer experience. So here's a good example of I was in a sorority. I'm still active in my sorority. I have a national volunteer role. And so you can see where I have it to present. And then I have my most recent ones and then the oldest ones of like when I became an advisor to what I was doing in 2018 or 2020. And then here's my other work experience. So like I said, I had a job before I went into higher ed. And so that is filling in the gaps from what I did back from college on. So hopefully that's helpful to see a visual with that too. What other questions do y'all have? Go ahead, Maddie. I see you took your mute off. Go ahead.
I just had a question of, I guess, how far back in awards is it, or really any section is it appropriate to go? Yeah, I understand like work experience, cover the gap. I'm a non-traditional student. I was in the Army before med school, so I understand that part. But, if my awards, some of my academic honors and things like that are from undergrad, is it still appropriate to put them and like how far back, I guess, should I go?
Sure. Undergrad's totally appropriate, especially if it's like that you graduated cum laude or you were like, top chemistry student or what have you. That's totally fine, but be selective in what you choose with that. Just like don't put every single thing. If it wasn't if it wasn't one of the more prestigious awards at your college or university, that's where you can kind of, again, you want to ask yourself, like, what am I trying to say with this? Like, am I trying to list everything I ever did? Or like, is it because this was something that was a really big deal at where I went to school? So you can just kind of sift from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hello, can you
Yeah,
hear
go
me?
ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. I had a question about those more fun extracurriculars like pickleball, for example, that you mentioned. For things like that, would you recommend joining it with everything else in the extracurricular activities or making its own individual section for it?
Yep.
And kind of only including maybe more organized things, like if you did a league, for example, versus just it's a hobby.
Sure. A lot of folks at the bottom of their CV will have hobbies. I just don't. But a lot of folks will. And so, yeah, you can have a hobby section and just list a couple things. Like, don't list every single thing you do. Do like the top 3 things you would talk about. So for me, I would put running, reading that I don't get to do very often, and like what else? Something else that I do, traveling. So if you ask me about running, I would say, yeah, I ran my first half marathon last year. I'm really this year, my goals now that I'm not pregnant are getting really good at 5Ks and 10Ks. I hope to do the St. Jude marathon next year, half marathon next year. I will never run a marathon. So you want them to be things that you can talk about. So yeah, if you say pickleball, you can just leave it at that. Then you can say, yeah, I play in a league with my friends. We've gone to tournaments. In that case, I would not make it like a volunteer section. I would just put it like as like just pickleball, whatever, and just kind of list them. And it'll be the same thing on the ARIS application for your hobbies and interests. 3 is a good number. Pick your top 3.
Thank you.
Mhm. And I will share this presentation with y'all so you can go back and look at it. I just shared the CV template. Feel free to download that and use it however you'd like. Anything else that I can answer for you or give you?
I actually have another one regarding research. I guess for one of them, for some of the research experiences, like I've been able to do several different posters, but those are usually not as time intensive as like a publication. Um, so I guess would you list like every single poster experience, like in all the detail as you do like a publication experience? Like for example, like one of the publications I was on, it was like 2 years of work in order to get it published versus like one of the posters, I worked on it for probably 8 to 10 hours. So how would you kind of write that down in your CV?
Yeah, you literally just list the what do you call it? Citation. They don't really care. You could talk about the experience in that way that it eventually led to a presentation. But that's where that would be dictated. They don't care how long it took you to write it, or whatever. But that's a great question. Those purely are just citations. Yeah, I know.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for this just because it's been on my mind right now just to work on. I was wondering with the presentations, or like with our posters, if it could be that one of like the case series we worked on, we presented for once as like a poster, but then this time it's going to be like a podium presentation. Would I list that as like at 2 different conferences
Yes.
or okay.
Yep. Yep. You can pedal the same presentation around to multiple different places. You cannot do that with publications. So feel free that if you do the same one at different places, that's absolutely fine. But just know that it looks unethical if you have it published more than one place. So feel free to go crazy with the posters and the talks.
Okay.
Because those have a little bit different process to be selected.
Okay, that's really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
So my question is, if we've been involved in an organization for multiple years, right, and then our position evolves from year to year, or we switch from one committee to another, or there's a promotion involved, would you recommend listing that as one entry, or could that be collapsed, or would that be better accommodated in independent sections?
Yeah, I would put it as the header being whatever that organization is. And then under each one, you can have the different experiences. So like if it was that you were, like if when you saw my sorority stuff, that's the way I would do it. Is like the heading is Kappa Kappa Gamma, and then each of my roles that I had underneath it with the dates.
Wonderful. Thank
So
you.
they can see that progression. So your newest first, and then the oldest last, and they can see how you've grown. Like I have students who were scribes before medical school. And so like they have their scribe job first, and then they have that they were a scribe trainer as the most recent and the first one. So you can see how that, how they grew into those positions.
Perfect. And that we can kind of describe each of those roles and responsibilities in those
Yep.
pockets. Wonderful.
Yep, with
Thanks.
3 to 5 bullets. Okay, now we have bullet points.
Appreciate it.
Life of mom, y'all. Dad's handling the other two, but let me be clear. It's a 4-month-old and a 6-year-old. So it's not quite the same.
Oh, that's amazing. Any other questions before we let Dr. Proffitt go, and hopefully Arkansas wins tonight.
I hope so. We got to beat LSU twice though. So
Oh,
I know, guys. Take it.
all right. Any final questions, anyone?
Big Suey.
All right. Well, let's just give a warm round of applause for Dr. Proffitt and all of her kids too. So thank you so much for being with us tonight, and thanks for just all your insights. And again, for the templates, everybody, she put it in the chat, so you can see that there as well. So thank you, Dr. Proffitt. We really appreciate you taking the time to give all your insights and expertise. So thank you so much.
Of course. You're welcome. I just put my email in the chat. So if y'all have follow-up questions, I'm totally fine to answer those. I will send Davis the presentation as well as and the CV template so that y'all have that. And if there's anything else I can do for you, I'll leave you with a piece of advice. I've been doing this for a long time at this point. Actually, like I think I've been in medical education now for 10 years, which is wild. But if you're matching this year, I've only seen one person ever, maybe two now in 10 years that we're supposed to match that didn't. Okay, so that's not a very high percentage. And sometimes that's just the way things work out. But if you do the right things, which you will, and you do your best, it's all going to be okay. Okay, I know it's scary. I know it's stressful, but you've worked too hard to doubt yourselves now. You've got this. So I just want to leave you with that as you start to do your ARIS application. And if there's anything I can do for you, y'all just let me know. All right, Woo Pig Suey. Go Hawks. Go turn on the College World Series.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Proffitt. Everyone have a great night.